From Humiliated to Enchanted, how a billionaire's invitation transformed this girl's life forever. In a world painted with glistening dreams and hidden secrets, a single invitation changed everything. Amelia stood in her tiny apartment, heart racing as she clutched the thick, gold-embossed envelope like it was a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. The address was mind-blowing. Lucas Caldwell, the reclusive billionaire known for his extravagant parties and sudden disappearances. The mere thought of attending his luxury soiree lit a fire in her chest. No one from her side of town made it there, not ever. But there it was, the opportunity shimmering in front of her like a beacon of hope. Could this be the escape she needed? As she peeled open the envelope, the scent of polished wood and something sweet wafted up to her. Inside, an ornate card read, "You are cordially invited." It felt unreal. Her hands were trembling. The first strange element hit her. Why her? She was just a girl working 2 jobs, trying to make ends meet. Why would a billionaire pick her out of the crowd? Did he even know who she was? Or was this some kind of elaborate joke? Doubt crept in, squeezing her heart. Her mind raced back to the lunchroom where everyone whispered about her, their cruel laughter echoing around like an alarm bell. Just a waitress, they'd say. She'll never amount to anything. Every inch of her had felt like a prisoner to that ridicule. The tightness in her chest, the lump in her throat. And now, this invitation promised something more, something extraordinary, terrifying, and glorious all at once. The day of the party, she paced her small living room. The dress she bought was like a second skin, hugging her curves in ways she was unaccustomed to. It felt foreign and exhilarating. But as she stepped outside, the sharp evening air hit her. What if she broke the spell? What if she was exposed, once again, as just Amelia, the waitress? The bubbling anticipation twisted in her stomach, making her feel alive, yet uneasy. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A sleek black car pulled up, cutting through the darkness like a knife. The driver stepped out, tipping his hat toward her, his gaze piercing as if he knew all her secrets. "Miss Amelia?" he asked, his voice smooth like silk. She nodded, breath hitching in her throat. With every inch she stepped toward the vehicle, the world she knew felt further behind her. Heart pounding, she slid into the back seat, shockwaves of excitement and fear coursing through her. The city blurred past, lights flickering like distant stars. The opulence of Caldwell's estate loomed on the horizon, grand and mysterious. It was a world she had only glimpsed through television screens, where the rich and powerful breathed different air. As they approached, a jolt of disbelief hit her. The mansion wasn't just opulent. It was a mystical fortress, shadowed by secrets. What lay beyond the towering doors? What awaited her inside? As she entered the hall, laughter and music swirled around her like a spell. The glittering chandelier rained light on the crowd, dazzling and overwhelming. Her heart raced again. But in the corners of her vision, something was off. Whispers, fleeting shadows, eyes too sharp. Was she being watched? Eyes flickered in her direction, sizing her up. Would they see through her facade? Would this invitation herald her dream or her doom? Before she could ponder the swirling possibilities any longer, a tall figure within. Enigmatic smile crossed her path, a man whose presence hinted at secrets buried deep. He seemed to know more than he let on, and as he extended his hand, Amelia felt gravity shift around her. Would she take a chance on the unknown, or would fear steal her moment? She glimpsed those bright eyes, and all the world's possibilities suddenly hung in the balance, waiting for her next move. Her heart beat furiously as she took the man's hand, warmth radiating from his touch. It was a flat-out invitation of words unspoken, a promise of thrilling chaos beneath the surface of the evening's glittering facade. He leaned in closer, and the underlying tension hung thick in the air as he whispered, "I'm glad you came, Amelia." The thrill of being recognized surged through her, pushing her insecurities to the back for a heartbeat. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the flood of excitement, but doubt slinked back in as she scanned the crowd. The other guests, draped in silks and satins, glinted like jewels in the dim light. She was acutely aware of her mismatched sneakers peeking out from beneath her dress. The tall man's gaze, however, kept her rooted. "I'm Nathan," he added, his smile widening. He had an air of mystery, an intrigue that pulled her closer. "Are you ready for an unforgettable night?" Unforgettable raised a whole new set of stakes in Amelia's mind. She silently hoped it wouldn't mean humiliation. Yet here she stood, in a whirlwind of laughter and clinking glasses, far removed from her cramped, tasteless life filled with endless shifts at the cafe. But before she could respond, a sharp laugh cut through her fragile confidence. "Look who decided to join us," the little waitress. A woman with jet-black hair and overly bright makeup sauntered toward them, her scorn wrapped in a silky voice. The crowd turned, eyes narrowing. Amelia's stomach dropped. The whisper she tried to escape echoed in her brain. She squeezed Nathan's hand tighter, feeling the urge to flee mingle with righteous fury. "Isn't it adorable?" the woman continued, amused at the growing discomfort. "She thinks she belongs here." But before Nathan could reply, he tugged her to the side, ushering Amelia away from the scathing remarks and sharp gazes. "Ignore her," he said. There was a fierce intensity in his voice that made her feel safe, at least for now. "I don't know if I belong here," Amelia admitted, her voice shaky. "You're here because you should be," he countered, his eyes piercing into hers like they held untold truths. It felt like he was reaching past her defenses. "Trust me, you're more than you know." Then, with a flick of his wrist, he motioned toward the vast ballroom. "This way," he said, leading her through the crowd. Everywhere she looked, incandescent chandeliers twinkled, casting shards of light on marble floors, and the scent of expensive cologne and exotic flowers enveloped her like a warm blanket. Yet the energy felt unsteady, like a current begging to explode. Just then, laughter erupted at the far end of the room, followed by a scream. It broke Amelia's thoughts. A woman had stumbled and crashed into a table, sending crystal glasses shattering to the floor. Gasps swept through the crowd, and she froze, heart racing again. "Let us check it out," Nathan said, not letting go of her hand. He guided her toward the commotion. As they neared the fray, a shadow slipped through the crowd, casting an ominous figure against the backdrop of chaos. Amelia's heart seized as she spotted a familiar face emerging from the darkness, someone she thought she left behind for good. "Wait!" she cried out, but her voice was drowned out by the clamor. The crowd's chatter spun around her, floral patterns of laughter and anxiety. The air felt electric, charged with uncertainty. In an instant, everything that had begun as a sparkling opportunity morphed into a tangled web of past and present, danger and thrill. And then, amidst the madness, amidst the eyes burning into her very soul, she saw it glinting from beneath a table, a flash of metal that sent a chill rippling through her. What was it? Amelia? Nathan's voice was insistent, but the words drifted away as the darkness encroached. What lay ahead? What other secrets would this night reveal? Would it be dreams or disaster, a dance with the unknown she never asked for? Her heart pounded again, this time with a mixture of dread and adrenaline. She had stepped into a world shadowed by secrets, and this was just the beginning. Amelia's eyes locked onto the gleaming object beneath the table. The metal flashed again, a silver glimmer that whispered danger and intrigue. She felt Nathan's grip tighten around her fingers, anchoring her amidst the chaos swirling within the ballroom. Her breath quickened as she scanned the other guests, hoping none had noticed. But the energy in the room crackled, reflecting the panic that threatened to consume her. "Stay here," Nathan urged, his voice low but firm, as he took a step closer to the table. The commotion around them faded into a distant hum, muffled by the pounding of her heart. She instinctively reached out, wanting to stop him, to warn him about the shadow lurking in the echoes of her past. But her voice caught in her throat, a knot of fear preventing her from forming any words. Instead, she took a hesitant step forward, peering around Nathan's broad shoulders, desperate to see what lay behind the furniture obscured by panic and curiosity. As he bent down, the crowd parted momentarily, faces shifting from shocked gasps to wide-eyed whispers. Did they know? Had they seen? "What is it?" she finally managed to muster, irritation mixed with urgency creeping into her voice. He turned his head slightly, and she saw the flash of determination in his eyes. "Just a second," he murmured, focused. Amelia felt her legs tense with anticipation. The woman who had crashed earlier was struggling to her feet. Her presence intensified the tension, and a few guests started exchanging whispers. The laughter had evaporated, replaced with an unsettling silence that clung to the air like smoke. Then Nathan emerged with a delicate silver bracelet in his hands, the shimmering chain reflecting the overhead lights, a beautiful piece yet laced with something darker. "Is this yours?" he asked Amelia, holding it out toward her. "What?" "No." But she hesitated, uncertain how to react. Her gaze drifted back to the woman who had fallen, now regaining her composure yet still shaken. A sinking feeling settled in her stomach. What were the chances a bracelet like that just lay unclaimed among chaos? Before Amelia could process her thoughts, the woman approached them, her previously scornful demeanor replaced with something else, a steely intensity. "That bracelet belongs to me," she declared, raising an eyebrow and folding her arms, a calculated smile curling her lips. "Did you find it, or are you trying to steal it?" "No, I just," Amelia stammered, glancing at Nathan. She felt even smaller, reminding herself of her sneakers. "Quite the spectacle tonight, isn't it?" A little drama added to the glitz. The woman leaned in closer, her voice silky and cutting as she leaned towards Amelia, giving her no choice but to hold her ground. "Amelia, ignore her," Nathan said sharply, his resolve bubbling over. "You don't have to prove anything." A surge of anger mixed with a strange hunger for justice flared up inside her. "No, wait," she said, pushing the words out. "Why would you say that?" The woman looked surprised but quickly regained her composure, eyes narrowing into slits. "Why, sweetie?" "Because appearances matter. Especially in places like this." "Enough," Nathan snapped, eyes intense. "Let us move on." Yet, before they could slip away, a low voice broke through the tension. "Take it easy, Carla. The night is still young. Why not let the girl keep it? Seems she could use a little sparkle in her life." That voice sent shivers down Amelia's spine. She turned slowly to see a tall man approaching, his dark attire absorbing the light around him, familiar shadows pulling from her past. "Jordan," she breathed, feeling her throat tighten as recognition crashed over her like a wave. The memories, the haunting ones, flooded back fast, dragging her down into the depths of confusion. Nathan's grip slipped from her hand, as if the world was spinning back out of her control again. "You know him?" Nathan's voice bore a hint of disbelief, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Why are you here?" Amelia steadied herself, heart racing with every question left unspoken. Who had called him? Did this all link back to that evening she had buried deep in her mind, and did it pull her into a past she thought was long forgotten? As she stood there, Everything hung in the balance: the bracelet, the motives, the promises of the night. The glimmer of metal still caught her eye, but it was the threat of betrayal that seized her heart. This was no longer about fitting in or escaping her reality. This was about facing her past head-on. And as Jordan stepped closer, a chilling smile on his face, Amelia knew the night was far from over. Amelia's stomach twisted as Jordan walked toward her like a shadow lengthening at dusk. His smile, both charming and disconcerting, sent a chill spiraling down her spine. The room fell into a tighter silence, breathlessly awaiting the tension that brewed at the center of their world. "Amelia," he greeted, his voice smooth as silk, a contrast to the storm raging inside her. "It's been a while." Each word dripped with a honeyed menace, reverberating through her like a low thrum. "Not long enough," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Memories clawed at her mind, images of a past she desperately wished to forget, moments marred by trust and betrayal. Nathan shifted beside her, his presence a warm anchor. "What do you want, Jordan?" he asked, his tone slicing through the air like glass. The protectiveness in his voice was palpable, a shield she needed in that moment. Jordan's gaze flicked to Nathan, assessing. Then he laughed lightly, the sound sinister in its lightness. "Just checking in on old friends. Your girl here seems to have found quite the charm tonight. The bracelet, the attention. Quite enchanting indeed, wouldn't you say?" The way he emphasized "your girl" made Amelia bristle. She shot a glance at Nathan, who still stood with an unwavering resolve. But her heart raced, not with fear for herself but for him. Had he unknowingly stepped into a deadly game? "I don't want anything from you," she managed to say, each word a defiance against the past she thought she had buried deep enough. But the grip of memory was relentless. "Let us go." "Ah, but isn't it adorable?" Trying to escape the inevitable. Jordan leaned in closer, his expression shifting from amusement to something darker. "You can't run from who you are, Amelia." A sharp intake of breath punctuated the moment. Glances exchanged in the crowd reflected the weight of his words. Was there truth hidden within his cruel jest? Before she could respond, a burst of laughter erupted from across the room, cutting the tension. It was a sudden reprieve, yet it felt like a distraction, a veil shielding the swirl of emotions that raged around them. Jordan straightened, his gaze shifting toward the source of the sound. "Let us not keep the party waiting," he said, feigning casualness. "But I have to warn you, secrets have a way of resurfacing, especially when you least expect them." A chill crawled up Amelia's spine as Jordan turned to leave, his presence lingering like a storm cloud. What secrets? Why now? Was he here to unravel her, or to remind her of what she had tried so hard to escape? "Amelia," Nathan's voice broke through her haze. "Look at me." She turned, a blend of fear and determination clashing within her. "I need to know why he is here, Nathan. He shouldn't be, he can't be." Nathan's brow furrowed with concern, his dark eyes reflecting the chaos inside her. "We'll figure it out. But right now, we should get out of here." They started to walk away, the silver bracelet glinting in her periphery, a reminder of not just the past but potentially a dangerous future. But the thrill of the night had morphed, anxiety twisting beneath the surface. She felt it in the marrow of her bones. The inevitable confrontation with Jordan would come again, and she wasn't prepared for what it might bring. As they made their way through the throng of dancing guests, the music felt distant, a dull throb beneath the rising tide of pressure in her chest. She glanced back, half expecting to find him watching her, a puppeteer ready to pull the strings. The moment she turned her head, she collided with a stranger, a woman clad in sequins and a smirk. "Be careful, dear," she whispered, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Not all glitters is gold, and you may just find the charm holds more than you bargained for." With that, the woman melted into the crowd, leaving a trail of mystery behind. The warning echoed in Amelia's mind, tangled with Jordan's threats. Amelia. Nathan's urgent tone snapped her back to the present. They had almost reached the exit. Yet, she hesitated, glancing back over her shoulder. The crowd shifted. There was Jordan again, his eyes locking onto hers from across the ballroom, a predator watching its prey, and in that moment, she understood this night was only the beginning. "Let us go," Nathan urged softly, but Amelia was already turning away. A decision had to be made. Would she confront the shadows of her past, or let the sparkle of the bracelet lead her deeper into darkness? Nathan reached for her hand, grounding her again. Suddenly, Amelia felt a fierce rebellion ignite. Jordan had drawn her back into a world she thought she had escaped. She took a deep breath, the silence wrapping around her like a heavy cloak. She had a choice to make, but every option felt like a step onto a precarious ledge. What was the cost of facing her fears, of challenging the very man who embodied them? She had to find out. "Are you ready?" Nathan asked, anxiety bubbling beneath his calm surface. And as they stepped outside into the cool night air, the world beyond felt dangerously uncertain, as if a storm was about to break. What awaited them in the shadows? Would past sins return to haunt her in the most unexpected way? The night was still alive with questions, and Amelia knew she was only getting started. The night's chill wrapped around Amelia and Nathan like a tightening vice as they stepped away from the chaotic glow of the party. For Amelia, the laughter and music faded into a haunting echo, replaced by the pounding of her heart. Each beat seemed to chant a warning: run, hide, just escape. But her feet felt glued to the pavement, and Nathan's hand gripped hers tightly, anchoring her as uncertainty swirled. "Keep moving," Nathan urged, his voice low but insistent. They rounded the corner of the building, seeking refuge from the prying eyes inside. His protective nature shined through, even as worry etched deeper lines across his brow. "What if he follows us?" Amelia's voice was almost a whisper, fear coating her words. She could feel the weight of Jordan's gaze still on her, a lingering shadow that made her skin crawl. "He won't," Nathan assured her, glancing over his shoulder, scanning their surroundings. But something in his eyes suggested doubt. The tension hung in the air like thick fog, obscuring vision and truth alike. They found themselves in a secluded alley lit only by a flickering street lamp. It felt worlds away from the elegant ballroom. They had fled an intimidating contrast that amplified Amelia's growing panic. 1,000 thoughts bombarded her mind, each one more haunting than the last. Why had Jordan chosen this moment to come back into her life? What secrets could he unveil? "Amelia!" Nathan's voice caught through her spiraling thoughts. He turned to face her fully, gaze steady, a lifeline amidst the storm. "Talk to me. What are you feeling?" Her throat tightened as she struggled to articulate the dread that coiled inside her. He knows something," she admitted finally, her voice trembling. "He knows things about my past, our past. It's like he is playing with us." Casting her head down, she caught a glimpse of the silver bracelet glittering around her wrist again, a talisman of a life she had tried to leave behind. "I thought I could leave it all behind." "Why now?" Nathan shifted closer, their foreheads practically touching. "Listen, whatever it is, we'll face it together. You're not alone in this." The sincerity in his eyes gripped her heart, but doubts lingered. "But what if I can't face him? What if it's something worse?" As if in response to her fears, a distant noise shattered the silence. The sound of footsteps echoed around the corner. Anxiety prickled her skin, and she turned towards the sound, heart racing. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall silhouette, unmistakable. "Jordan, miss me already?" he taunted, stepping forward, an unsettling grin broadening across his face like the Cheshire Cat. The confidence radiating from him felt intoxicatingly dangerous. "Stay behind me," Nathan urged, positioning himself protectively in front of her. Jordan's laughter rang out, tinkling like broken glass. "Oh, come now. There is no need for theatrics. I've come for a chat." Amelia's instinct screamed at her to run, to hide from this man who held pieces of her shattered past. "What could you possibly want?" she spat, the venom in her voice surprising even herself. "Ah, just a friendly get-together. You and Nathan are quite the pair, aren't you? But I assure you that his presence here complicates things." Nathan's posture hardened, fists clenched at his sides. "We don't want any trouble, Jordan. Just walk away." Jordan's gaze darkened, and for a split second, Amelia saw a hint of desperation flicker in his eyes. Then it vanished, replaced by a smirk that twisted her gut. "A little trouble is what you both need. After all, secrets have a way of surfacing, especially when you're least prepared." This time, the chill rose from deep within her core. What had Jordan uncovered? What truths were set to unravel? Jordan took a step back, the grin never leaving his face. "You'll come to me, my dear Amelia. And when you do, I'll be waiting. After all, the night is still young, and it harbors many more surprises with that." He slipped back into the shadows, vanishing like a bad dream. "Amelia?" Nathan's voice trembled as he reached for her hand again, searching her eyes for assurance. "What just happened? What does he mean?" But her voice was trapped beneath a tidal wave of fear. She felt like a marionette, strings tangled in the chaos of old demons resurrected. Before she could respond, the streetlight flickered once more, dimming dangerously. The air felt thicker, the weight of Jordan's words pressing down on her like a vice. "Amelia, we need to talk about this," Nathan said urgently, pulling her closer. "It's not over," she whispered, the truth of the matter sinking in. Not by a long shot. What would Jordan do next? Could she really confront the shadows and emerge unscathed, or was she destined to repeat history's mistakes? Amelia's heart raced, the air thick with tension as she felt Nathan's warmth beside her. The words Jordan had left hanging echoed in her mind, a dark melody that swirled around her. Surprises felt like a curse wrapped in an alluring mystery. What else did he know? A flood of memories surged, each dragging her deeper into unease and old life she thought she could forget. "Amelia," Nathan said urgently, breaking through her thoughts. "What are we up against?" The flickering streetlight cast a shaky glow on Nathan's face. She could see the worry etched in the lines around his eyes, and the tightness in his jaw. For a moment, she felt a wave of comfort drape over her like a loving embrace. But the feeling was fleeting, overshadowed by the specter of Jordan and the chaos he stirred. Amelia took a deep breath. "I don't know. He has something over me, something I thought was buried." Without warning, the sound of footsteps returned, this time accompanied by muffled voices. They were closing in, hostile echoes that snarled in the quiet alley. "Amelia," Nathan whispered, eyes wide, clearly sensing the danger that lurked behind the corner. Instinctively, they pressed their backs against the wall, their breaths shallow and rapid. Amelia's mind raced. Was Jordan already orchestrating more chaos? Were his accomplices near? The voices grew louder, the laughter chaotic and erratic. She held her breath, fear tightening around her chest, fingers trembling in Nathan's grip. Suddenly, a bright beam of light swept across the alley, illuminating their hiding spot. "I swear I saw them go this way," a male voice shouted. The panic surged through her veins, urging her to flee, to hide any way she could. "Follow my lead, okay?" Nathan whispered. Through the alley's narrow passage, he pulled her deeper into shadows, crouching low. Amelia's pulse hammered in her ears. "If they're with Jordan, just trust me," he interrupted, his eyes fierce. That spark of determination rekindled her fading hope. The figures approached, 3 men in dark clothing armed with flashlights, their postures menacing as they scoured the alleyway. Nathan's grip tightened around her wrist as they ducked behind a dumpster. She could feel the cold metal against her back, the stench of garbage mingling with the rich scent of fear that filled the air. The lead figure, a tall man with shaggy hair and a cocky stance, shone his light into the darkness. "Could be swore I saw her here. She is always running from something," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. Amelia's skin crawled. Jordan's puppets had come hunting. "We need to get out of here," she breathed sharply. Nathan nodded, eyes darting, the urgency of their escape palpable. Just as they prepared to slip away unseen, a loud crash interrupted their thoughts. The dumpster behind them tipped over, crashing to the ground. The noise was deafening, a hollow echo that shattered the tension like glass. "Hey! Check that!" One of the men barked, pointing directly at them. Before she could react, Nathan pulled her to her feet, urgency pushing them into a sprint. The adrenaline coursed through Amelia, but doubts flickered in her mind. What if they caught them? What if Jordan was waiting for them with a trap? As they dashed through the alley, the world around them became a blur of shadows and danger. They turned corners, heartbeats echoing in time with their footfalls, until they finally burst out onto a dimly lit street. Breathless, they skidded to a stop, pressing their backs against the cool brick wall of another building. Amelia's heart thundered as she glanced up and down the street. "What now?" she panted, glancing at Nathan, who was scanning for any sign of danger. "We need to find somewhere safer to regroup," he said, determination pouring from his gaze. Before they could move, a voice yanked her from the moment. "There you are, Amelia." It was unmistakable Jordan, taunting once again, standing at the opposite end of the street, smirking. "Run," Nathan hissed, grabbing her hand. They darted left, but his grip faltered as Amelia turned back, the haunting pull of Jordan's malicious grin paralyzing her. "Amelia, remember the rules of the game," Jordan yelled, echoing through the night air, laughter trailing behind him. "What does that even mean?" Nathan shouted, pushing her forward, but she remained torn, her heart waging war against her instincts. What game was he playing? Then, like a lightning flash, realization combated her fears. Maybe it was time to confront the shadows, the tangled mess of her past. Maybe the rules needed rewriting. But before she could voice any of it, the ground trembled beneath them, and a chilling howl filled the night, unmistakably close. "Amelia!" Nathan's voice rose in alarm, an urgent plea. What lay ahead, the darkness or a path back to the light? The alley was no longer just an escape route. It was a battleground for her very essence. And in that moment of silence before the storm, one thought dominated. What game had she truly entered, and who would ultimately hold the cards? The ground shook violently, as if the very earth were alive. Amelia's heart felt like it might burst out of her chest, each beat echoing her panic. Nathan's eyes, wide with alarm, pulled her away just as the sound pierced their fleeting moment of peace. They darted around the corner, urgency pushing them forward. "What was that?" she gasped, her voice barely a whisper, laced with terror. Nathan shook his head, his jaw set in grim determination. "I don't know, but we can't stick around to find out." The street stretched before them, dimly lit but empty. Adrenaline surged through Amelia, propelling her forward even as dread clutched at her stomach. She could hear Jordan's taunts winding through her mind, the cadence of his playful malice haunting her steps. "Where do we go?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder, expecting the shadows to leap forward. "There's a bar down the street. They might let us hide out for a bit." Nathan's voice was low but reassuring, like a beacon of hope in the chaos. They sprinted, legs pumping in frantic coordination. As they reached the bar, Nathan yanked the door open, and they plunged inside. The dimly lit space was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the panic outside. Amelia's eyes adjusted, landing on a handful of patrons scattered across the room, their expressions a blending of curiosity and concern. Get us a booth, Nathan hissed as he scanned the room. Amelia nodded, her mind racing. They had bought a moment, but for how long? She led Nathan to a dark corner booth, sliding in and pressing her back against the padded seat, her chest heaving as she attempted to catch her breath. What now? She panted, feeling trapped in both her surroundings and her thoughts. Let us figure out what Jordan wants, Nathan replied, his tone edged with a mix of worry and resolve. You mentioned something buried. What does that mean? Amelia swallowed hard. Memories surged, each one sharper than the last. There were things I did, choices I made that I thought were behind me. Jordan, he knows everything. Nathan leaned in, his expression serious. Then we need to be ready for him to use it against us. As if on cue, the bar door swung open, and in walked two figures tall, menacing, and unmistakably familiar. Amelia's blood ran cold. They were Jordan's henchmen, scanning the room with predatory eyes. Stay calm, Nathan said, his voice a hushed command. Don't let them see you panic. But how could she remain calm? The walls felt like they were closing in. She watched the men advance, their gazes now locked onto their booth. Do you think they know? Amelia whispered, her heart thunderous. I don't know, but we can't take that chance, Nathan replied, his voice steady despite the rising tension. Follow my lead. The men paused, murmuring between themselves, before they began moving toward the booth. Amelia felt her stomach drop. There was no escape. Would they run? Fight? Amelia, one of the men called, his voice dripping with mockery. Didn't he expect to see you here? Amelia's breath hitched, her body stiffening as reality sunk in. Why now, in such an exposed place? She felt trapped in a spotlight, fear magnified in the eyes of those around them. We need to act now, Nathan insisted, his body tense, prepared for whatever was coming. The lead man grinned, a sinister smile stretching across his face. Jordan wants to play the game again, and guess what? He has invited you back. Without warning, Nathan sprang from the booth, anger flashing through him. Get away from her. No! Amelia shouted, grabbing his arm. She couldn't let him act recklessly, not when everything was on the line, but that swift movement sparked chaos. The bar erupted into panic, patrons scrambling for the door, as the men drew closer. What is the game this time? Amelia demanded, voice trembling but firm. The man's laughter rang out, buoyed by the chaos he created. When the clock strikes midnight, the real fun begins. With hearts pounding and time slipping away, they had to decide would they confront the brewing storm, or flee to the shadows once again. And as the countdown began, how many surprises awaited them in the night ahead? Amelia couldn't breathe. Every face in the bar turned toward her, eyes wide, hearts racing, a shared pulse of fear rippling through the crowd. She could almost taste the chaos, a metallic tang lingering in the air. Nathan, she whispered, panic rising like bile in her throat. Her fingers gripped his arm tighter, her nails biting into his skin, but Nathan was already moving, his mind racing. We need a plan, he said, his eyes darting toward the exit. If we stick together, we can find a way out. Just hold on to me. Amelia nodded, though her insides twisted. The lead henchman, a man towering over them with a predatory smirk, was closing the distance like a wolf circling its prey. We can skip the pleasantries, Amelia. You owe him a visit. And time is running out. Sudden dread washed over her like ice water, drenching her resolve. Midnight wasn't just a time, it was a deadline, a looming threat hovering above her like an executed sentence waiting to be carried out. What do you mean, owe him? You'll find out soon enough, he taunted, glancing back at his partner, who stood behind Nathan, blocking their escape. Let us go, Nathan growled, determination flaring in his eyes. He surged toward the nearest exit, but the bar's small space erupted into a blur of bodies and chaos. People shouted, chairs crashed to the ground, and Amelia's heart raced faster. "Stop!" came the shout from the henchman, piercing the chaos like a bullet. "Don't run!" the other one called, spurring the panicked crowd into a frenzied stampede at the door. Amelia felt the surge of bodies jostling her, pushing her back toward the booth. "We need to stay together," Nathan shouted over the din, his frustrated voice masked by the sound of impending chaos. In that moment, Amelia's will to escape collided with the reality of betrayal. "Stay back," Nathan shouted, forcing his way through the throng. He looked at Amelia, a fierce determination in his eyes, but she also saw the dread, the fear that they might not make it out unscathed. "Amelia, I need you to trust me," he said, an urgency lacing his words. "We can't let them take you. Whatever Jordan has planned, we need to face it." The henchman laughed, the sound deep and unsettling. "Face it? Oh, sweet Amelia, you don't even know what he is capable of." Nathan tossed a glance that promised danger, but before he could act, the lead henchman lunged forward, grabbing Amelia by the wrist. "Come with me, or else this gets messy." Fear settled in Amelia's stomach like a stone. She caught a glimpse of stunned faces around them, a mix of terror and intrigue. It felt like a nightmare, a perverse theater where she was the unwilling star. "No!" Nathan shouted, barreling forward to intercept them. But just as he lunged, the other henchman swept his arm around Nathan's neck, wrestling him back. "You don't want to mess with us, boy," the second man growled, holding Nathan firmly. "Let him go!" Amelia screamed, panic clawing at her throat. She couldn't lose him, not like this. The thought of her world unraveling became more tangible. With every ounce of courage surging through her, she swung out, tearing free from the lead henchman's grip with surprising finesse. She bolted, her instincts roaring louder than ever. "Amelia!" "No!" Nathan shouted, struggling against his captor. Heart pounding in her ears, she glanced back. Nathan's eyes widened as she broke free, their gaze connecting like a lifeline between them. She could either run towards an uncertain freedom, or back into the chaos that was swallowing him whole. In that split second, a decision formed in her mind, a choice being made with the weight of her past, and the shadow of her future hanging in the balance. Just as she reached the front door, the clock on the wall chimed in a sudden, ominous crescendo, marking the arrival of midnight. What hideousness was waiting for her on the other side? The last echo of the chime reverberated in her chest as the door swung open, the night air heavy with unspoken menace, and a hardened voice called her name from the darkness outside. Would she leap into the unknown, or would she succumb to the malevolence waiting to drag her back? Amelia stumbled into the night, her heart racing, every muscle in her body tense with the urgency of escape. The cold air hit her like a slap, sharp and stinging, but the feeling of freedom was intoxicating. She was out, but at what cost? A figure loomed in the shadows, illuminated by the flickering streetlight. It was him, Jordan. His presence was magnetic, like a dark storm cloud, swirling with chaos and intent. "Amelia," he said, a sly smile creeping across his face, as if he held the key to some monstrous secret. "You finally made it. I was starting to think you'd never show." "Let go of me!" she shouted, instinctively taking a step back as dread welled in her throat. She could still hear Nathan's voice, echoing in her mind, an anchor in the whirlwind. "Trust me, Amelia." But with every passing second, she felt that trust slipping away. Jordan chuckled, low and sinister. "You misunderstand. You want to get away from them? That is not the game." Behind her, the bar erupted into chaos as people were pushed out, like debris from a powerful wave. Nathan's silhouette appeared in her periphery, still wrestling against his captor. "Amelia," he called, desperation coloring his voice. But it was too late. The door rattled shut, sealing them both in a different kind of danger. Jordan's eyes glinted with an almost predatory hunger. This is the real world, Amelia. Their little game? It doesn't include you anymore. Why are you doing this? She asked, choking on her fear. How could someone seem so confident when everything felt like it was spiraling out of control? Because you have something I want, he replied, his voice smooth, wrapping around her like a cold, dark blanket. And it's not just about playtime anymore. With one swift movement, he reached out and grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward him. The suddenness of his action caused Amelia to gasp, her pulse racing as she felt trapped between his grip and the uncertainty of the night. She had a choice: succumb to his manipulation or fight back with everything she had. As she looked back toward Nathan, their eyes met once more, a silent vow of loyalty amidst the wreckage. "Do you really believe you can control me?" she spat, adrenaline fueling her defiance. "Control?" He laughed, a hollow sound that ricocheted off the brick walls of the alley. "Oh, sweet Amelia, it's about so much more than control. It's about destiny. You're at a crossroads. You can submit to your fate with me, or you can go back and face the consequences of defying the unknown." As those words fell from his lips, she felt a chill creep down her spine. The weight of those promises hung heavy in the air like fog. That's when a distant siren pierced the stillness. Amelia's heart quickened, a possibility of salvation on the horizon. "In 1 hour, you'll know what your debt is. For now, you have to make a choice," Jordan said, glancing toward the street. The sirens grew closer. "Choose wisely, Amelia." "Let her go." Nathan's voice thundered from the doorway, laced with determination, driving Amelia's heartbeat into overdrive. The pressure mounted as she realized that the true horror was not just who pulled the strings, but that it was someone she had once trusted, someone who had pulled her into this tangled web. "Just remember," Jordan said, leaning closer as he lowered his voice, "there's a fine line between freedom and a cage. It's your choice." With that, he released her wrist, stepping back into the shadows, leaving her teetering on the brink of chaos. As the sirens blared closer, Amelia felt the flicker of hope battling against rising fear. What awaited her if she dared to face the truth? The clock was ticking, and she could feel the hands of fate tightening around her. Would she embrace the darkness, or would she find a way to break free from his grasp? Amelia's breath caught in her throat as she faced the looming shadows of her past. Jordan's words echoed in her mind, clinging like stubborn smoke. The sirens grew louder, a song of urgency that pulled her back toward Nathan, who still battled against the henchmen. She could either surrender to fear or fight for the life she wanted. "Amelia." Nathan's voice cut through the tension, raw with power. There was no choosing for her now. She had to act. She felt the warmth of the silver bracelet around her wrist, a talisman of courage. With a burst of adrenaline, she charged toward Nathan, her heart pounding wildly. Grabbing his hand, she yanked him forward, their fingers interlacing like solid steel. "We've got to go now," she urged, feeling the heat of determination spark anew within her. "Together," he whispered, squeezing her hand, the promise resonating deep in her core. With newfound resolve, they sprinted toward the exit, casting furtive glances back at the chaotic scene. Jordan's mockery hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, but Amelia chose to drown it out with the image of light beyond the darkness, forging a path toward freedom. As they reached the street, the cool night air kissed their flushed faces, the blaring sirens now closer, pulling them from danger. "This way," Nathan urged, steering her through a narrow alley. Each step felt like a reclamation, each beat of her heart a defiance against the looming shadows. They zigzagged through the maze of streets, adrenaline fueling their escape. Other pedestrians glanced their way, oblivious to the storm swirling just beneath the surface. The comforting distance of streetlights illuminated their path, a cascade of flickering hope cutting through the darkness. "What now?" Amelia gasped, catching her breath as they ducked behind a parked car. "We need to find somewhere safe," Nathan panted, scanning their surroundings for options. Why did Jordan come back? She asked, the question spilling from her lips. What does he want from me? Nathan shook his head. I don't know, Amelia. But whatever it is, we'll get through this. You're stronger than you realize. His words flavored her hope with a tinge of warmth, lighting the way forward. Still, uncertainty loomed large. What staked her future? What terror tugged at its edges? The shadow of Jordan's words trailed behind like a sinister specter, the air suffocating with possibilities. As they maneuvered through the bustling streets, dodging the chaos, Amelia turned to Nathan, her voice steadied. I can't let him control me again. I need to face my past. This is so much bigger than me. Then we face him together. Nathan's eyes glinted like stars piercing a midnight sky. He stepped closer, the gravity of his presence anchoring her again. Whatever secrets he thinks he can reveal, we'll break them apart. I'll stand by you. I promise. Amelia locked onto his gaze, and for the first time since their worlds collided, a sense of clarity washed over her. She was not alone. The doubts faded like mist dissolving in light. Let us find him. They continued forward, toward the unknown dimensions of their fate, the streets swirling with determination. It was long before they spotted a familiar figure emerging from the shadows. Jordan, that predatory grin etched across his face. Well, if it isn't my favorite runaway, he taunted, stepping into the light, hands casually tucked into his pockets. The air between them thickened, electric with unspoken challenges. Why are you here, Jordan? Amelia demanded, her voice firm, fighting the shivers griping around her spine. Oh, I merely wish to remind you of the game we are playing, dear Amelia, he replied, his voice silky smooth but dripping with venom. The clock is still ticking. He gestured toward the looming clock tower nearby, its hands racing towards midnight. Enough. Nathan interjected, stepping forward, a shield of protectiveness. What do you want from her? The laughter that spilled from Jordan felt cold and cutting. You're not involved, Nathan. This is between Amelia and me, he said, attention flickering. Back to her. Don't you see? You're the pivotal piece. Either you'll surrender, or the truth will shatter you. Let us see how shattered you can become, Amelia whispered, determination flooding her veins as she stepped closer, chalking her courage against his fire. The bracelet around her wrist pulsed like a heartbeat, a beacon of resistance. Curious choice of words, Jordan smirked, but there was a glimmer of unease sliding beneath his cool facade. You've always had that spark, Amelia. I wonder how long it will last. Just tell me what you want. Her voice tightened, eyes narrowed with defiance. An old debt to be paid, he said, a snicker in his tone. And for you to finally accept the truth about who you really are. Amelia! Nathan shouted, reaching for her when he realized what was about to occur. The confrontation couldn't be avoided any longer. But she stood tall, the winds of destiny bending to amplify their weight. You don't control me, Jordan. You will not take my life or my dreams away. As the clock's hand struck midnight, a sudden commotion echoed through the streets. Police sirens filled the air, their urgency thumping like a drum. Jordan's smirk morphed into a scowl, shock racing through him. You think this is over? He stepped back, preparing to retreat into the night, the shadows swallowing him like a snake escaping the light. Amelia, gathering every ounce of courage she possessed, screamed back. This is just the beginning. As the swirling chaos settled around them, she felt an exhilarating rush fill her body, a sense of freedom coiling tight within her chest. They were done running. Now was the time to face the truth, whatever that truth may be. The weight of the past had been lifted, allowing Amelia to breathe again, and together with Nathan, she stepped away from the brink, ready to forge her future unbroken, fearless, and unstoppable. The journey toward healing had begun, the chains of her past falling away. The shadows would chase her no longer. This was her life, her choice, and she was, at long last, the one in control. And just like that, they walked forward, hand in hand, facing the sun rising over the horizon as symbol of a new beginning and the light of hope breaking through the darkest of nights. If you felt the power of Amelia and Nathan's journey, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are about to unfold. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the good vibes rolling. Flood the comments section with your reactions and thoughts about this crazy ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this epic conclusion. True fans know how important it is to support the channel. Let us keep this journey alive together.